What's up? I'm Howard Hewett, and check it out. Stay tuned. Be on lock. Sean Stockman. On that note.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to On That Note. My name is Sean Stockman, and this is the place where we speak a language that we all understand, and that is music, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I have a very special guest, someone who's near and dear to my heart, more than he probably knows, but he's going to find out today. One of the greatest vocalists ever, has amassed global success, not just as the frontman of the amazing group Shalamar, but as a soloist as well. His gift transcends R&B music and inadvertently inspired so many artists that came after him, like me. One of the greatest falsettos in the world. I'm putting that on record. If you listen to all of his records, all of his songs, like this man's falsetto is sweet as cherries. And again, listening to him when I was a kid, and listening to myself sing now, you know, self-consciously you pull from your idols or people that that inspired you or just gave you that energy to sing a certain way. And this man is that man for me, okay? One of the nicest men you will ever meet. Mm-hmm. That's that Libra energy.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I can concur.
You know, it's that Libra energy.
So I got somebody else's food. It's like,
please give it up for the legendary Mr. Howard Hewett.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Those are great words, man. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I think the last time I saw you was in what? We were in Switzerland?
Yeah, we were in Switzerland and Zurich.
In Zurich.
We
were in Zurich. Exactly. And we were having a good time, and we were drinking and smoking cigars and singing and performing and all that good stuff. Yes.
I can't smoke a cigar. I tried.
I tried.
Right. But man, if I smoke a cigar, I can't work for like 3 or 4 days afterwards.
Well, you know what? It's pretty rough on me too. But occasionally I'll enjoy a stick or two. So I was the one smoking the cigars. We were doing everything else. We was partying. We was having a good time. Good to see you. How's everything?
Everything's great, man. Everything's real good. Just working, you know, they're all kind of moving around. We were talking earlier, just, you know, perpetual state of movement.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So doing real well. Thank God.
How many shows do you do a year?
Man, I'm hitting like about between 150, 200 shows a year. You know, I mean, between here, if we count, you know, little stuff that I do, and then overseas as well with the group with Jeff and Carolyn. Yeah. You know, we do the overseas situation. We've been doing that for the past 20 plus years.
That's amazing.
So
that's a blessing.
I love working. I mean, I've been a performing artist since I was 10 years old. You know, so that's all I've ever done. I always say, you know, I think in my lifetime, when I think about it, I had maybe 2 9-to-5s. You know, when I was like 15, 16.
Yeah.
In one of those, what they would probably consider a DEI program now. You know what I'm saying? So.
Before the acronym.
Before all
And what was that job?
I worked I was 15. I worked at the Goodyear store.
Like store?
Goodyear, because I'm from Akron, Ohio.
Okay, yeah.
So back in the day, it was like, I mean, Akron was the rubber capital of the world. You know, and Goodyear, Goodrich, Mohawk, Cyberling, everybody was there.
Howard knows his tires.
Hey, man, I know. I would smell. You go to the east side, you'll smell the tires too, man.
If the music thing doesn't work out, you know.
Hey, man, it was like back home, especially coming up, you either did music, you worked in the rubber factory, or you were a pimp. You know what I'm saying? And some cats tried to do all three. You know what I'm saying? And
get all the checks.
And all of it. And, you know, I mean, the first time I ever saw like a Rolls Royce, you know, it was this cat, Donald Leathers. We used to call him Hollywood.
Donald Leathers.
Yeah, and he was
Sounds like he drive a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, he was the Pimp of the Year, Mac of the Year.
That's right.
And my band was called Life. We spelled Lyfe. So Life Jennings, he wasn't the first brother to do that. We did that way back in the day.
Right.
And but my band, I mean, we were like when I went into the R&B situation, I was started out in the gospel thing, of course, 10 years old, and I mean professionally, we were hitting it. We were on the gospel chitlin circuit,
right,
in the summertime. You know what I'm saying? And then at 14, I went into the R&B situation, and so me and my partners put together after a couple of things with a couple other bands for about a year. Me and my partners, Marvin Burke, Ricky Fletcher, Ricky Parker, Byron Williams, Walter Williams' brother.
Get out of here.
Yeah, Byron played guitar for us.
That's right, because the OJs are originally from Ohio.
From Ohio.
That's right.
They're right from Dayton and Canton, not Dayton, Canton, and up in Shaker Heights and stuff.
Right.
So like, I mean, Byron played guitar. I met Walter. We talked about this just about a couple weeks ago. We were doing the show together, the OJs and Shalamar actually. Yeah. And I was talking to Walter, and Walter and I met when I was 15. Yeah. So he came to one of our rehearsals, and
that's crazy.
And so we put together life band. We called it Life Band and Show, and we would open up, man. We opened up back then. We opened up for Cool in the Gang, for Robert and them. Okay. And Bobby Blue Bland, the Barcades, we opened up for. It was like we were, to be reckoned with. As far as some young niggas, right?
Yes, right. Yeah.
And like
you can say niggas on this podcast. It's all
young
good.
Niggas. We were hitting it. Everything Parliament Funkadelic put out, George and them put out, man, that we were on top of it, And so like, but that's what we did.
It's so crazy hearing like how all these stories tend to correlate from when I hear from, other artists, and there's a specific breeding ground that certain artists go through, that have to go through in order for them to reach a certain skill set. Like you like being around those types of acts and performing in front of them, like you couldn't be whack, you couldn't be terrible, because they would cuss you out or you would get booted off the tour. So this was good, like iron sharpening iron type of thing. And it's always the same. The story is always the same. If you see any artist that has lasted longer than 20 years, they've been through that circuit of no, seriously, because we went through it. Like we had to go through performing in all conditions and all types of situations with some artists that would whoop your ass, and you'd have to go back and recalibrate and figure out what you have to do next and all those other things. Like that's where you want to be. You want to be around other people who are better than you, because that's the only way you're going to reach your potential
and get and reach, like you said, reach the potential that you're supposed to reach. And it's not always, unfortunately, is not always about, how much talent you have too. It's about how much, tenacity you have, how much confidence you have. Yeah. How much, it's like how thick your skin is. Correct. Because you're gonna have rejections. Yeah. There's gonna be a situation where somebody's not looking at you in a certain way. So that's what determines whether you deal with this and then or get this part or get this part in the band or whatever. But it's like, okay, when somebody says no, does that make you shrink back? Yeah. Or does that make you, go ahead with praise the Lord, what your plans are?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, rejection sometimes is your ability to get stronger and to develop and really make a choice as you kind of led to say that, if this is something you want to do or really do, and if you're really passionate about it, and that's everything, because I look at singers today personally, and I mean, there are singers that sing higher than me, that do better riffs than me. And I have to still live in that ecosystem, because I'm like, okay, I can't do that, but I can do this. And I'm going to do this better than anybody. And you got to kind of have that attitude. Like I don't deem myself as the best singer in the room, but I sing. and this is how I sing.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're into it or not is subjective, but there's a confidence that you just said that, this is me. This is who I am. And that's the beauty of artistry, of being able to express yourself the way that you see fit and not like anybody else.
Because it's like, I went through, especially in an early age, I went through what I call my Stevie Wonder stage, where I wanted to sound like Stevie.
Sure.
And,
we all did.
Not a bad person to want to sound like.
Right.
Went through my Donny Hathaway stage, where like Donny was the man, was the cat, and of course, your Marvin Gaye stage and stuff. But at an early age, when I was like about 15, 16 years old, I realized that the thing that makes these guys unique is the fact that they are unique.
Yes.
When you hear Stevie, you know it's Stevie. When you hear Marvin, you know it's Marvin. When you hear Donnie, you know Donnie's voice. So that's what made me look at certain things that when I was 15, 16 years old, and made me say, okay, I'm here saying I want to sound like Stevie. At one point, I wanted somebody to say, I want to sound like Howard Hewett.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So taking all those influences,
Yes.
and wrapping them up and spending the time. I spent time in my mom, in the house that I grew up in when I was, a kid. You go into the bathroom, there's nothing but tile in there.
I was going to ask you that.
So,
I was going to ask you.
that's how
The
you
main
figure
question.
out. You figure out how to.
Right. It's the best acoustics in the bathroom.
Yeah, and that's acoustic. You don't have to have no microphone or nothing. No reverb. It's right there. So, you spent that. I spent that time in there. My sister's knocking on the
Right.
But I'm in there trying to develop something, And I remember the band I was with, Life. Dear friend of mine, the bass player, this cat Ricky Fletcher. I mean, he's great, amazing bass player. And I remember one time we got into an argument, about. He said we were at rehearsal and stuff, and he's like, "Man, you gotta sing like the record," And I said, "Man, I don't want to sing it like the record."
Right.
I said that. I want to sing. No, nobody give a damn about what you want to hear. You got, you got to sing it like the record. That's what the people. I mean, we've got into a physical fight.
Have you seen that bass player lately?
Yes, yeah. He
How do you feel about that now?
He is one of my best. He's one of my best friends.
So funny how that works,
and
right?
I remember,
the guy you fight growing up ends up being your best friend.
Your best homie.
Yeah. Roll on the floor.
Yeah.
Fighting, you know what I'm saying? And it was after I had split when I was like 20 years old. I left Akron, and then second time around, a couple years later, second time around came out, right? And then I go back home. We love to go into the mall and all that kind of stuff, and I saw Ricky. That was the first time I had seen him in years. And he apologized for that fight. I had forgotten all about it, right?
That's a stand-up guy.
Yeah, but he said, "Man, I understand what you were trying to accomplish now, when you listen to this." And that's my boy, we were good afterwards even. It wasn't like we fought and then we lost contact.
But that's back in the day though.
Yeah.
You could fight your homeboy, and have a scrap.
It didn't end up on Instagram either,
It's no grudges after that. You got it all out.
You got it all out, and then we just went on like we were supposed to. So it's back then especially. It was really about being individuals. Like I said, you wanted to be, have your own sound. Now a lot of times, you got to figure out who's who because everybody's sounding alike. Everybody biting off everybody, and so but back home, back in the day when coming up, it was about, okay, how am I going to be an individual?
Right.
How am I going to be, And I tell folks even now, man, I mean, there's people out there that can sing me under that table over there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just like you said, but I know what I do.
Yeah.
And I've improved, thank God, improved on that.
Yes.
And it's about, this cat told me one time, he said, "Man, I know a cat that can sing Say Amen better than you." And I said, "Well, there's probably a whole bunch of cats that can sing Say Amen better than me."
Right.
I said, "But who who's gonna put butts in the seats when you put that name up on the marquee?
Ta-da.
That's the bottom
mic
line.
drop.
That's the mic drop.
You know.
Because the bottom line is they got the inspiration from you.
Right, exactly.
Period,
So,
point blank, end of story. Because, they might have the vocal acrobatics and all the other stuff to
and
do
I
a lot
can't
of
do
things.
all that stuff.
Yeah, but guess what,
You
Howard?
know?
You don't have to.
I know. That's the thing.
Because the truth is, you being who you are and you creating the signature tone that is Howard Hewitt's signature tone, like you can sing one note and people go, holy shit, because you've already set the precedent in our minds of who you are. Like you have nothing to prove. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what this whole podcast is about, to celebrate men like you and women, and artists that
Whoever's in that chair.
Whoever's in that chair, who basically have created or set a precedent. You set a precedent. Like your tone is unlike any. Like I told in the introduction, your falsetto is so clean, and how in your records you would go from full to false. That's something that I had to learn to do through you, because I wasn't the first tenor. Like I didn't have the chops like maybe my group member Wanye or someone like that. Like he's stratospheric. He can go there.
It's crazy. He's crazy.
I can't do that. So I'd have to kind of find a way up the mountain.
Different trail up.
Yeah, just a different trail.
Yeah.
So I had to figure it out. And what I love about your tone is that there's a sweetness to it, yet masculine. Like it's things that men with falsettos just learn how to do. Like it's a yin and yang thing. It's a feminine masculine. It all works. You know what I'm saying? Because
Eddie Kendricks.
Yes, Eddie Kendricks is. I was just thinking about him. He's one of those guys that just know how to, there's a man singing, but when he hits that false, it curls your toes, man. And you know what I mean?
He was amazing, and that's I would be, remiss if I didn't mention him, because it's like for that false situation.
Yes.
That was the example that I had, that I pulled from.
Yes.
When I was a kid. And he was just like you said. He described it perfectly. It's like, it was a sweetness, but you knew this was a dude.
That's right.
This is a cat.
That's right.
And
that's
so.
Right. Brian, he's answering all of our questions.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to the interview. Mateo, let's just go ahead and wrap this one up.
Right.
Put a bow on it.
Right. No, it's cool because what I was going to ask you is, because I always try to get into the mind of my guests, meaning what makes you great had to have an origin. So what made Howard, or who made Howard Hewitt sound like Howard Hewitt? Who are the voices that help shape what you become?
I would say, the people that we've just mentioned with Donnie and Stevie and Marvin for the natural situation. The false situation, the situation I pulled from were Eddie Kendricks and from the stylistics.
Yes.
Come on, man. He would kick
bugging.
my butt.
Hold on. What's that? Hold on.
He would kick my behind.
Russell Tompkins.
I was just saying right
Russell
before
Tompkins.
You said,
Yep. Russell Tompkins. Yes.
That's amazing. He and I and Gerald
Gorgeous.
Austin.
Austin.
We did this thing. We did this thing. He and I and Gerald did this thing. It's been. They're actually gonna. How you do something years ago, and then they finally do something with it.
Right.
But we did this thing, and it was in I forget where it was exactly. Somewhere on the East Coast. But it was like with a 50-piece orchestra,
Wow.
And we did opera. Jesus,
Wow.
I mean, that kind of thing. We went there.
Y'all went there.
We went there big time.
Okay.
And it was amazing. And Russell, man, to hear him do something other than the
Right.
You know, it was like amazing. And to see him come. And all of us kind of came out of our comfort zone with that.
Right.
You know, and
That had to be exciting though.
Eddie Pinsett.
Wow. The Three Black Tenants.
You know, all that stuff.
Right. That's awesome.
That whole thing, man, and it was amazing. And we had so much fun doing it, you know.
That had to be liberating.
Yeah, oh man, it was great. It was good. I don't You know, I have to do things sometimes to step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And experience a whole nother situation. That was great.
John, do you have any moments like that where you just did something completely out of your shell?
Yeah, I mean, we did a well, you know, it's funny. Like, I was a weird kid, so there wasn't too many things that were out of my comfort zone.
Define weird, like for the audience at home when they say weird.
Meaning
playing with worms.
well, not worms, but grass snakes. But anyway, that's another story. That's but anyway, you would think that because of the group I'm in, all we listened to was R&B music, and that's not true. Like, I listened to the Carpenters and Christopher Cross and
yacht
pop,
rock.
Yacht rock, as they call it now, and a lot of pop music and folk and all the other stuff like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and like, this was me as a child. So it was like I was all over the place. On top of Shalamar, LTD, Slave, like that was all in my household. So I think if I had to pick one thing that might seem a little weird to what people know us for, is we did a folk record with I forget the group's name, but Steve Martin, the comedian,
the actor.
You know he's an amazing banjo player.
Banjo, yeah.
He's sick, and he has a folk band.
Really?
And we did a song with them, and it's called "Be Still Moses." You guys can look that up. But
shout out to Steve Martin.
Yeah, no,
he's an incredible talent.
No, he's sick.
He's amazing.
He's
banjo,
an amazing banjo player.
But banjo, the whole origin of the banjo too, comes from the whole, blues situation.
That's right, from Africa.
Africa.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But but he's sick with it. So yeah, I guess I would say that'd be like, I guess you could say the
doing a folk record with Steve Martin.
Yeah, I did a folk record, but
that's stepping out of your comfort.
Yeah, I guess so. But I've always been fascinated with the era of the 80s.
Yeah, because
that was when I was really blossoming into being a singer, like and singing songs, and a lot of songs were inspiring to me from Shalamar. Well, first off, for those who don't know, how did Shalamar get together? How did the group come about?
Well, I was actually the third lead singer Shalamar had. When they first developed, this cat Simone Susan went to Dick Griffey and Don Cornelius. They had it was Soul Train Records.
Oh, Soul Train Records.
Soul Train Records.
Sorry, excuse me.
And so like I met Jeffrey and Jody when before Shalamar even existed. I was with I had gone down, me and my cousin, when I first got out here to LA. It was like, man, I touched down at LAX. I had $34 in my pocket. Coming straight from Akron. I was 20 years old. I had no wife, no kids. I tell my kids now, I remember when I did not have you. Right. I had no responsibilities at all.
It was wonderful.
And like, it's when they're great kids. They're all grown now. So we made it through, you know what I'm saying?
Thank God.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Praise the Lord. But when I first got to LA, man, I touched down, my cousin picked me up at the airport, and we came out of LAX, and it was like towards the end of the day. It was about 5-6 o'clock. I'm in the car he had borrowed from a partner of his called Pistol Pete,
Pistol Pete.
And so like we came out of the airport up La Cienega, all the way up La Cienega, up that hill to Sunset, made a left on Sunset, went into
I used to live right there. Yeah,
went
exactly
into the hills, man, and like, had a joint, sitting there smoking the joint and looking over the valley lights and stuff, and said, we gonna conquer this city.
I know that's right.
Now, how we were gonna do it with $34 in my pocket, I don't know. But
you got to visualize it first.
Yeah. And then we get back in the car and come out of Beverly Hills, down Sunset, make that right back onto La Cienega, all the way down past the airport, to the hood. We were in the hood.
Yeah.
And man, and so like that's when the whole thing started. He had called me and told me, man, you gotta come. I met this girl. She has a 2-bedroom apartment, and her roommate will love you, right? And so like, like
he said, sold, I'm in.
Yeah, I was in. I was all in, man. I was like, so I'm on the plane thinking about, okay, and knowing I wanted to live in California literally since I was 8 years old, because we took a family trip across, and like I got we stayed here 10 days, my family and with my mom's brother, and I remember that 10 days for the rest of my life. Yeah, I said, man, I want to live in California. So coming here was like a passion. It was
Cali sunshine, different.
It wasn't just, I just want to live in California. It was a passion. It was like, so like, when I got here, then I connected with a cat that played bass with a group that was in Akron, and they came out to California, and then they broke up. And he was playing bass for this group called Love Machine. Okay. It was 7 ladies, man.
The Love Machine was 7 ladies.
7 ladies, beautiful.
Sounds like a love machine to me.
But Miss, what was it, Miss Johnson in Friday?
Oh yeah.
Kathleen.
You talking about Kathleen Bradley?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
See,
that's the homie. Yeah.
Kathleen Bradley.
Shout out to Kathleen. We love you.
Yeah, okay. Love Kathleen. That's my girl. But Kathleen was in the group.
Okay.
She was in the group. And all of the women in that group. I'm
going to have to ask her about this.
Yeah, all the women in that group were just as fine as Kathy was. She is rather.
Why haven't we heard of this group?
Yeah. Love Machine. She'll tell you about it. It was all down.
What year is this?
This is 76.
So 76. Okay.
And it's all, we were down in Maverick's Flat. Okay. Down in the Crenshaw district. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so John Daniels and Alonzo Daniels, his brother, got arrested, Alonzo's soul. But Alonzo, he turned out, he was like a big brother to me, like my big brother. So we put everything together, and all. Let me preface it also with Maverick's Flat. On the weekend, it was a club, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it was open. Yeah. All the Soul Train people used to come down there. You would look out in the audience at any time, though, because I put together a group that John Daniels and Maverick said, we all put this group together because they used to put together show groups. And like I said, on the weekend it was a club, but on the weekdays upstairs was Maverick International, and it was a booking agency, and all their bookings were overseas. So your whole thing was like getting a group in shape enough to tour, right? And so Love Machine was one of those groups that they put together, and they toured all over the world, everywhere.
So this is where your love for touring comes from then, right? 200 days a year, you're touring around the globe.
Man, that's
cake for you.
Light work.
Yeah,
light work.
That's lightweight. So when cats come, they're cats saying, "Oh, we just came off the road." I said, "Oh, how
30
long
dates,
out?
and you're like,
"Oh, we out 2 weeks." Yeah, that ain't no tour, man. That ain't no tour. That's an outing. You know what I'm saying? That's an outing. But man, because with the group, once we were in shape enough to tour, the first gig we did was in Helsinki, Finland. Right?
How about that?
And so then after that was Geneva, Switzerland, and Benidorm, Spain, all over, Asia. And it was everywhere. Yeah. We were on the road, but during that time, like I said, that's when I first met Jeffrey and Jody. They came, they would come down with all the Soul Train dancers. And then, you you look out in the audience, at any time. You see Shaka Khan sitting out there. You see Lionel sitting out there. You see, that's when I first met Ralph Johnson from Earth Wind, you know. And like, so that was the beginning of my LA situation. And so like when they went in, I went overseas for about 9 months with the show group. And then during that time, that's when Shalamar formed. So this cat, Simone Susan, he was a producer. He put together in a disco form a medley of Motown hits. And so that was Shalamar's first single called Uptown Festival.
What year was this?
This was 70. This is about 70, 77.
So
70.
are you in the group at this point, or you're not in it yet?
No, I'm not in the
Because I know
group.
you said you were the third lead singer of the group.
I was the third singer. First lead singer was this cat, Gary Mumford.
Okay.
And he did Uptown Festival.
Okay.
Then Gary goes back to the church. And then I came home after 9 or 10 months with Beverly Hills. The group was called Beverly Hills, the show group. And then I was home for a month, and then I was going back overseas again. And I told them I would go back overseas.
Damn,
so
he was working.
Yeah, during that time, that month, that's when Jeffrey Daniel first came to me and said, asked me if I would be interested in joining the group. They had Uptown Festival. They were getting ready to go back in the studio again.
Right.
And but I was already obligated to this show group. So your word is worth more than anything in this, So like, I said
life.
Yeah. So like, I went back overseas, and while I was over there this time, that's when they did Take That to the Bank. And they had this cat Gerald Brown from Cincinnati. He was in the Soul Train gang group and all that. And so like they did Take That to the Bank. And then I was overseas for about 3 or 4 months, right? And then came back, and we broke up. The group, Beverly Hills, the show group, we broke up when we were over in London, right? And so came back, I'm kicking around LA, and started working with these cats over at Motown.
Okay.
This cat, Jeffrey Bowen.
Okay.
He was doing an album on Eddie Hazel. Remember Parliament Funkadelic?
Okay, yes,
Remember
sir.
Maggot Brains?
Yes.
That was Eddie Hazel.
Okay.
Maggot Brains. That was the guitar player for Parliament Funkadelic.
Okay.
Cold-blooded boy.
Yeah.
Dude was cold-blooded. So Jeff Bowen, the producer, he produced a bunch of stuff like on the Commodores and Temptations and Standing on Shaky Ground. All
we got to bring some of these bands back.
Slippery When It's Wet. He did all that
He's
stuff.
going down memory lane with
And so like
the OJs and everybody.
I'm working with this cat. I'm working with Jeffrey Bowen, right? And so we worked for about 2-3 months or something like that, and at Record Plant, and doing the stuff, and so then they started, the checks started getting kind of shaky,
that's
started
typical
new situation.
What we used to call the Motown runaround back then, right? It's like so checks start getting kind of shaky. So then I called a meeting. My lady worked for Don Cornelius at the Soul Train Dance Studios, right?
Don Cornelius is obviously the creator. So
so like
Rest in peace.
so like I drop her off at work, and I said I'm going to a meeting at the Motown building, right? So I'm sitting there in the meeting, and I'm telling getting all this stuff off my chest. Y'all giving me the Motown runaround, blah 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 blah.
Runaround.
And then the phone rings, right? This is serious. The phone rings. This is on a Friday. The phone rings. Jeffrey Bowen's co-producer, his cat Angelo, answers the phone, and he looks at me and he says, "It's for you, right?" I said, "Well, if it's my lady, tell her I'll call her back when I get done with this meeting, right?" He said, "Well, it's not a lady," and this is before cell phones, so you could tell when there was a long distance phone call because you could hear the crackling on the line and all that.
A little shaky.
And he said it was not a lady, it's a guy, and it sounds like it's long distance, right? So I get on the phone, and it's Jeffrey Daniel from Shalamar, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're on the road in the middle of a promotional tour, promoting Take That to the Bank, right? And then Gerald and them got into an argument. I never to this day really got into the details of what the argument was, but whatever it was, Gerald jumps on the plane and says, well, when y'all can see it my way, give me a call. In the middle of a promotional
so he quit in the middle of the tour.
Right.
In the middle
and they never saw it his way.
So he jumps on the plane. Jeffrey knows that my lady works for Don at the Soul Train Dance Studios. He calls her to find out where I am. She tells him he's at a meeting at the Motown building. To this day, Jeffrey won't tell me how he got to the exact office I was in.
Right.
But
his little secret.
He called, So he calls and he connects with me. He says, look, he said, I know that we talked before, but we want to offer you, one more time, we want to offer you an equal position in the group as lead singer. And he said, you're at the Motown building, right? I said, yeah. He said, where are you? I'm up on the 15th floor because Motown had 17, 16, and 15.
Right.
I said, I'm up on the 15th floor. And he says, well, Solar Records, Dick Griffey and Solar Records are in that same building down on the 9th floor. And he says, we've talked to Dick, blah, 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 blah. So I get off the phone, man. I tell Jeffrey Bowen and then what the deal was. And then, Angelo starts, he says, well, man, Shalamar be nothing but a fly-by-night disco group.
Whoops.
Never amount to anything but a fly-by. Solar will never be a Motown and blah, blah, blah.
Whoops again.
And so like,
Wrong twice, huh?
Right.
I listen to what they're saying, right? And talking and stuff. And after they get finished talking, I said, well, I'm parked on the street. I got to go put some money in the meter
right.
so I don't get a ticket, right? And so I got out of the office, went right down to the 9th floor, got right in there, talked to Dick. Dick reiterated what Jeff said. Like I said, this was Friday. I told Dick, I said, look, give me a second to let these people rectify themselves if they want to rectify themselves upstairs. I'll get back with you in the morning. I called Jeff Bowen and told him, if y'all want to rectify this, I'll be home, all night. Nobody calls, right? Next morning, I called Dick, went over to his crib and watched the videotape of a Shalamar show, right, with Gerald Brown in there and the whole thing. And then after that went off, I'm sitting in his rocking chair. And Dick says, well, sing something. Jeffrey and Jody say you're a great singer. And I said, sing something? Just a cappella? He said, yeah, sing something. So I said to myself, I said, well, Lord, me and you, right?
Right.
And I broke in, something that you told me stayed in my head all night long. And then just burned it.
Right.
Burned it. Got through the first verse, half the hook. Dick says, okay, fine, I'll be right back. He goes upstairs, comes back down. He's got some cash, like about $500-600 something. He said, here's some money, leave with your old lady, pay some bills. And then he went in his other pocket and he brought out an airline ticket. And that was back in the day with it. I could ride on your ticket, you could ride. Didn't have to have
the buddy pass.
This is before 9/11, right?
Right.
So that it didn't have, I could ride, you could ride on anybody's ticket, right?
Good times.
And so, exactly.
You just needed the ticket.
He said, there's an airline ticket. You got to catch the red eye out tonight, meet the group in New Jersey tomorrow, which was Sunday. He learned the lip sync and the choreography to take that to the bank. He said, because Monday you got a TV show to do.
Ooh.
And that's exactly how it went down, just like that.
And what year is this?
This is 79. This is the end of 79.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the timelines together for the audience at home.
Right.
Want to make sure they get that timeline correct.
Yeah, I'm getting the timeline together too because we
got to find out together.
One thing I wish I'd have done, I wish I'd have journaled all through this whole thing because I'm putting together my book now. Of course,
that's why you have this podcast. You can always refer to this.
Yeah,
you're good. We're documenting it right now.
Cool,
we're putting it all on the scroll.
But that's how it went down. I got the offer Friday. Saturday I did a little lightweight audition. Saturday night on the plane on the red eye. Sunday we rehearsed all day. I did the Milli Vanilli thing before Milli Vanilli even existed.
Right.
You know, because Monday we did this little dance, you know, dance show in Patterson, New Jersey. So, and the rest is history, as they say.
That's awesome. And you've gone on and you guys made amazing hits, great songs together. You split, and then you started on your solo journey. Now, what I appreciate about music then opposed to now is men weren't afraid to show emotion. Like it wasn't considered as sucker shit or as people would kids call today simping. And you know,
simping?
Simping. Simping. Like you're a simp if you show emotion to a woman. And that's weird to me because that's the essence of R&B and love songs. You know, a man showing how he really feels about a woman and that well that I, you know, drew from growing up. How do you feel if you're even connected with today's music and the sentiment behind what is considered R&B and love songs and how it's changed?
Yeah, it's like I always tell people, there's great stuff out there. You just have to sift through all the bull crap,
That's true.
know, to get to it.
Amen.
And you know, I look at people like Bruno and Anderson .Paak, you know, and his situation as well. There's gems in there that you can find.
Yeah.
And even when you look at you know, Kendrick, you know, with the just recently the Luther
the
thing.
Luther joint,
and I mean it was that was amazing, and I think that you know, people that artists now, it's a shame that whole thing went into simping, as you're saying, that whole situation, because that's one of the things that's how we honor our women. Yeah, that's how we honor, you know, and a young girl back then, a young girl going in from being a young girl into a woman. Yes, you know what I'm saying, and I believe that we have to really be careful about the words, some of the words that we allow to be spoken, because you know it is about what comes out of your mouth. What's that thing from the heart the mouth speaks? Right. That's you know what I'm saying? Right. And so you know you know when you're dealing with a certain situation like that, you know it's coming where it's coming, and it's terrible. Yeah. Sometimes that it comes from that's where it's coming from.
And I think that, you know, you said that's how we used to honor women, and I think women used to enjoy it. Do they still enjoy a man to be sensitive? And because I think women give men as much shit sometimes as men give other men sometimes, you know, about that. If we're just being real, right?
Like being real, you said?
Yeah. I mean,
what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think, and again, I might be a little more savvy is to what Brian's talking about. It's like there's a movement, and again, let me make it, you know, state the disclaimer. Like this is not this is not to diss new music as anything that's out, because just like Howard said, there is good music out there, and there are great love songs out there, and there are great artists that represent those that movement and those types of songs. But what I'm speaking of is what crosses over, what becomes mainstream. And because when something becomes mainstream, that means that the majority of the listener, the music listener, are hearing these things, and in their mind, and just naturally, you perceive that as what the genre represents. What it represents. So if it's nasty shit, then you're gonna always think that R&B is just some nasty shit, opposed to really doing the work and doing homework, and just like you said, sifting through a lot of the other stuff to get to the soulful, music. But you're right. Like we live in a generation now, because it's funny, we just had an interview with Entertainment Tonight, and they were talking about how women are singing more about love songs than men.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I said, they are singing, they're doing more of the heavy lifting, as I said, when it comes to love songs, because we live in a time where men don't know their roles.
Right.
Men don't really understand what to do with a woman. When women are proclaiming out loud and popularizing the dogma of, I don't need no man, fuck niggas, I'm not, I don't need this, I don't need that, I don't need you for this, I don't need you for that. And the irony of this is that some of these women that are speaking like this actually have sons, which is really strange to me.
Which is strange.
You're basically saying men ain't shit, but so how does your son feel, you think, when you're proclaiming that and you're stating those things? So going back, I digress. Like, so men are in this void, trying to figure out, okay, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
So the main thing that men do, because we're men, is we go to our go-to, which is fucking. Macho, fucking. I hit this chick and da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of dudes is on that, because, and then the whole simp term, which is used by women most of the time or half the time. Man gotta be like that. But where can a man be tender if he can't be tender with his woman?
Right.
And that's the word that I think differentiates music, and I dare I say it, differentiates music that you sing, that I sing, and many others, opposed to music now. The music isn't tender. Like you mentioned Silk Sonic, and even with that example, they had to go and throw it back. Because Leave the Door Open, for example, sounds like a throwback.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
like
funky,
Bruno and Anderson understood that that's the essence of what love music is about. They have to have certain ingredients.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the music that is out right now, there's no tenderness to it.
Yeah, Top 40 radio has changed a lot.
No, but it makes sense from the coarseness of women, because they're not hearing anything but coarse shit. So it's
interesting.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you're conditioned to listen to a bunch of I want to, you know what I mean, and without sounding too nasty, but not nasty stuff, women instantly think that, okay, I got to be like that, and then it the monster flips on itself, because now you're creating these women who are like this, and now men are like, whoa, wait a minute. So
the domino effect has happened.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is. And you even look at Top 40 radio back then, two things could be happening at the same time. We talked earlier with Leslie about Little Kim, how many licks, right?
Yeah,
pretty raunchy song and video, but there were still great ballads on the radio at the same time.
It's a balance.
It was a balance.
It has
you
to
can
be,
have both.
Yes, you can have both.
But you need both.
Because you need both.
You have to have the balance.
Yes.
If you have all this stuff where it's like, because like you said, some cats don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But even back in back in the day, it was like I would tell cats, hey, you can listen if you want to say, because a lot of cats say, no, listen to tell their woman, listen to this, listen what Howard's talking about, listen to that, to Show Me, listen to Once, Twice, Three Times,
That's
you listen to I'm For Real and all
That's
that.
right.
And I tell them, I say, it's my, as an artist, I feel responsibility to get you to the bedroom door.
Yes,
now, I don't need to take you into the bedroom. We should know what to do as far as that's concerned. But I'll get you there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but you don't have that a lot now.
No,
you don't have that a lot.
The songs that we sing are just as much for the men as it is for the women.
Yeah.
But for different purposes. It's us speaking for the guys.
Yeah. I feel when I do a show, it's like cats are like, come sing to my woman.
Right.
Come sing to my woman.
Right.
You know, there's not no intimidation. It's like she ain't going home with me.
Right.
You know, she going
You doing
home
him
with
a favor.
Right.
And
And he know that, which is why he said, yo,
and
Give me those brownie points.
I tell the cat when I'm on stage, I tell the cat, I sing to his woman, I tell the cat, I look at him and say, you gonna thank me later on for
Right,
this.
exactly.
You gonna thank me for this later on. Right?
Exactly.
So like that's what and for a woman to be able to get, because I mean I've seen the hardest core business women, you know, it hit a certain chord, they turn into little girls.
That's right.
They just want to be loved. They
want to be loved.
They
That's
want
their
to be loved.
nature.
They want that.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, it's in their nature. It's like as men, it's our nature to protect and provide. It's just who you are as a man, right? It's like in your soul.
Yeah.
Like you want to take care of your family. Like I was telling my wife one time, I said, you know, for you, I think it'd be the equivalent of like a Thanksgiving meal. You're at the stove in the kitchen for 8-9 hours, right? Just to make a single meal for your family.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the table and you see everybody eating all the amazing food that you created from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And how much that fuels your soul when you look over, like the satisfaction.
Yes.
That's how men feel when it's hard work to take care of your family and provide and be out in this, you know, out there getting beat up by the streets, so to speak. But that passion that you feel knowing that they're safe and they have clothes and some food and a roof.
Like they say, the most important thing for a woman is security.
Yeah.
And the most important thing for a man is respect.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
You know,
Amen.
Agree.
Respect.
And so on that note, we come to Mateo's favorite part of the show, Sean's songs, which is now a segment. We need it sponsored, Sean. We need a sponsor.
Yeah,
Where's Guitar Center or somebody? I mean, like, where are we at with this? Guitar Center, you're on the clock.
Let me get a couple of good, you know, episodes, in the can, and you know.
Then we go for some sponsorship.
Right.
Yeah, we got to get, something, but, A Night to Remember is one of my go-tos.
Hell
you
yeah.
just, like, that's just such a feel-good record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's been sampled, obviously, over the years, but the original.
Everybody's done. Everybody's done. But it's like a lot of stuff is like, it's filled, and that's what we like. That's why it's still, like, we can still go and hit like 70,000, 50, 60, 70,000 people at a time.
That's crazy.
At these festivals over in
Unreal.
England, because it's what we call feel good music.
Yeah, that's right.
It feels
That's
good
right.
music.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the truth is that everybody ain't on what we on.
Nope.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is there are people, and I use this literally, there are people overseas that are going through some real shit.
Yeah.
Real.
They're, violence and wars and all this other stuff. And the last thing they want to do is talk gangster.
Mm-hmm.
They want to feel loved. They want to be loved. They want to experience love, because all that's around them is hate.
Yeah.
So guys like us are able to be, I guess you could say, those people's elixir,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't get that normally. They don't see it normally. They only get it with their families. And a lot of times you feel isolated because you don't think that anybody else feels the same way that you do until Howard Hewett comes to town, or Boys to Men comes to town, or Shalamar comes to town. And we're singing spirit into them that makes them feel better about their loathing conditions.
Yeah.
Because life a lot of times is hard. And what a lot of people are going to realize, a lot of younger people are going to realize, is that the things that you prioritize now will change. And love will always be there.
Mm-hmm.
You will always need it.
Mm-hmm.
You will always require it. You will always crave it.
Yeah.
And it'll always fill you up when you get it.
In the word, it says, you can have all these, because you can have 10 commandments, all this stuff, but the greatest commandment and
Is
the most
love.
important
That's right.
commandment
Love thy
is
brother.
love.
Yeah.
Love each other the way that you, like, I treat people the way that I would want to be treated. I don't want to get bust upside my head and robbed and all that. So why would I do that to somebody else? I don't want to be cheated and as far as or treated or talked down to. So why would I do that to somebody else?
That part.
Yeah.
It's like you treat people the way that you want to be treated.
That's right.
It's a simple thing, but people just make it so hard sometimes.
And that's really the problem. Like we make things harder than what it is, and it shouldn't be that way. And again, what we emphasize on, and it especially the younger cats, like it will change because you will want to find or be around a element of love and appreciation. And those things matter, and they always matter, no matter what age group you are. But sometimes it takes us a little longer to understand.
And if you come to this show, you're going to get a lot of love because we lead with love over here.
100%. We don't badmouth anybody. We don't talk crazy.
Yeah.
We're not about hot takes or controversy. This is about music. It's about love songs and how all of those elements of songs connects to our lives and our DNA and what makes us who we are. You know what I'm saying? But on that note.
Yeah, man.
What we doing, fellas? What are we doing? Tee it up.
It's actually one of my favorite songs.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite songs of his. I keep banging this guitar. Jesus Christ.
Well, Guitar Center is going to sponsor us, and you can get unlimited new ones.
This is the Guitar Center segment of the show.
Hey, you got to speak. Earlier you were talking about like the journey and how you only had $30 in your pocket, and we've all been in that. I think anybody who gets to greatness has that level of delusion, right? You have to be delusional almost to make it, know? And so you guys being here, at some point, nobody saw the vision and now you guys are here. It's crazy.
First word, every day. My imagination anticipates ways I can show you how much I love you. Candy flowers, priceless pearls, romantic trips around the world. Baby, just think, you and me floating on a Caribbean sea. So exotic, I can just feel the heat. And this candlelight with the moon so high, hanging in the Spanish sky, girl. But before I go on, baby, you got to let me know just how far to let this go. Help me, baby, 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 show me now, love me, show me you'll understand. Help me, oh baby, sing verse. If time won't allow for such an affair, little darling, I don't care. We don't have to go nowhere. We'll stay at home, turn the lights down low, play our favorite video, or better still, we'll make our own private show and we'll love so deeply, deeply. I feel your arms completely. I'll taste your sweet lips, caress your fingertips. Ooh, but before I go on, baby, take my hand, show me that you'll understand. Help me, show me.
Come on now. That was just effortless.
Yeah,
Y'all
man.
hear that, right? Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, listen, this is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Howard motherfucking Hewett.
All right. Definitely.
Telling you, this was a pleasure. This was a treat.
Man, it's my
Howard,
pleasure.
thank you so much. Hey, man, when are we going back to Zurich?
Soon, I hope.
Yeah.
I got a thing to prove in Zurich, man. Because
Yes.
last time I was there, it was man, there was some crazy stuff
It's
went
all
down.
good, though, but thank
it's
God
all
you
good.
here.
Thank God.
Praise
and
God.
It is even better than better.
How about that?
Yep.
And we're going to end it on that note. And you'll probably see us in Zurich sometime. Thank you very much for tuning in to On That Note. My name is Sean Stockman. Once again, my special guest, Mr. Howard Hewett.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank all of you beautiful people for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Hey, y'all. And that was On That Note. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, here's a couple more videos for you to check out. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.